welcome to my short video explaining how I went about creating a CRM for a client within the Google Workspace environment. This is my first attempt at doing this kind of video, so please bear with me if there are any glitches, any ums, any ahs, any hesitations, but hopefully you'll get an idea of how I went about doing this, and maybe it will give you some inspiration for thinking about how you might want to use something similar for your environment. And obviously please get in touch if you think it's something that I might be able to help you with. The reason that I used Google Workspace as a software to build a CRM for this client was because of the particular constraints that they had around the size of the organization. It's very small, they had significant budget constraints, and Google, the various Google apps are ones that they were using on a daily basis for their work, so it definitely made sense for them as a client. There are obviously other options available, some of them very expensive or can be very expensive. So custom solutions can sometimes cost hundreds of thousands of pounds, where you get an organization to build something entirely from scratch. There are off-the-shelf solutions where you can customize software that they already have to a certain level, and things like Salesforce are a good example of that. But again, they can be incredibly expensive. There are actually quite cheap options now available in what people call low and no code environments, and they're essentially a way in which you can build a CRM almost entirely from scratch, but without the need for any coding skills. And they usually require some kind of subscription cost depending on the size of your organization, with that cost obviously going up per user, depending, like I say, on how many people you want to access the particular CRM. We decided to not move forward with any of those options because obviously the expense of a custom and off-the-shelf solution just rule them out. But the low and no code solution also had its drawbacks in that the client would have had to learn how to use a new environment, and they were reluctant to do that. So I decided to look into seeing what was possible within the Google Workspace. Thankfully, it has been possible to do something. I've built this mostly from bespoke. I've drawn some inspiration from existing Google Sheet CRMs, but it is essentially a bespoke solution. There are organizations and companies that have built templates, CRM templates, using Google Sheets. Some of them give them away for free, others you have to pay for. In saying that, even if you get one of the free ones, you still obviously need to understand the formulas that they've used. You need to essentially de-engineer, if that's the right word, what they've done to try and understand if it's how it works, and to make it suit the needs of your organization. So even when I say templates, there will be a certain amount of effort required to actually understand how it works and adapt it for your organization. So, as I say, we decided to move forward with a Google Workspace environment, and I'll go through now how the CRM that I've created for them functions, and also how I used Google Data Studio, also known as Looker Data Studio, how I use that to create a dynamic dashboard that visualizes the data contained in the CRM. So when you open it, you should come to the sheet or the tab that says Start Here. If you don't, you just click the three lines here, and you can see all of the different tabs available in this workbook, and you should just open it to Start Here. And this is a cover sheet for the CRM, and it tells you how to use it. I'm not going to go through all of the text because it's specific to this client, and if you decided to do something similar but use it slightly differently, then obviously you'd adapt this text accordingly. What is also on this tab is a link to the dashboard that I mentioned that I created in Google Studio, or Looker Studio as it's also known, and you can see the link there. I'm not going to click on it just now, I'll click on it at the end so you can see how all of the data contained in the CRM can be visualized in various different ways. So the first thing that I had to think about for this client was, what is the central piece of information that organizes all the other bits of data, that you can hang all the other bits of data on? And for this client, it was the organizations. They were collecting details on organizations, and these organizations served as training partners for them, served as collaborating partners for them. They were inviting to events. They were sending the details of the organizations to their beneficiaries. So all of the other things that they were doing could be connected to the organization data. So that was the kind of central piece of information that I used to try and organize this CRM. And you can see the different tabs here that tell you how this client wanted to organize their data. So like I say, there was events, capacity building or training partner. They wanted a way to track the communications that they had with all the different organizations. This tab speaks to how they connected the organizations with members of their network. Like I say, you might want to do it slightly differently, and there might be a different piece of data for you on which you can hang all of the other pieces of information that you're seeking to organize. But like I say, for this client, it was the organization's data that was central to everything that they were trying to do. So what I tried to do was think about, okay, what can I create that enables them to input new data on organizations as it comes in, allows them to modify existing organization data, allows them to search for information that they've currently got on an organization, and as and when needed, allows them to delete organization data as it becomes obsolete. So the first thing I did was create a user form. Because this is a Google Sheets environment, you can obviously click directly onto the tab to see the information contained within it. Or like I said before, you can click on these three lines and you can navigate like that. I would usually recommend clicking on the three lines, particularly when you've got a lot of tabs and they almost disappear off the end of the workbook. Here you can see everything. So that's useful. And actually, just another thing worth saying here, I've also color coded the tabs to try and explain how you might use them slightly differently. You might want to use a slightly different color code depending on what you're trying to do. So this is the user form to add new organization data. So it's pretty simple in the way that it works. So let me put the data in for my organization. So RLI Consulting. Let's add the date that I added this new organization in. For this client, they wanted to give each organization a category according to the theme that they worked on. So environment and human rights was quite important to them. Obviously, you might have a different drop-down list. It might also be the case that this organization focuses on more than one area. So there's a little button here that you can click that opens up more options to input those additional thematic areas that they work on. I'm not going to add those in here. I'm just going to leave it as environment. Then I can add in the data here for named contact. So that's me. So that's that there. Add in my, and you can add, same again, click the button there, and you can add more contacts should it be needed. That isn't needed here, it's just me. Just add in the website. There we go. So that's a recognizable website. If you hover over it, you can also see a little preview of the website. What I've also done for this client is give them warnings if they input in data that isn't right for this cell. So let's put in not a URL and see what happens. And you can see a little red triangle there. And if you hover over the cell, it says input must be a valid URL. You can also have it, and I've done it for some of the other cells, where it actually rejects the data, so it doesn't allow you to put anything in there. I haven't done that for website because sometimes websites are formed in quite a odd way, a different way, a way that maybe Google doesn't recognize, and I didn't want it to reject those URLs. But let me put my original there, and you can see that the warning's gone again now that it recognizes it as a URL. And obviously you can do the same for email. If it doesn't recognize it as an email, then you can get it to reject it. But let's put that there. Again, you can add more or less emails. Country, there's a list of countries here, or if you want, you can start typing and you get United Kingdom. Again, if there's more country data you want to put in, you can do that here. And then we can put, this is a test. And then we just go back to the top and we click save. You can see it's running a little script that I've created. And if we go to the tab that says organizations, in fact, you'll see it twice because I'd already inputted it, which I'd completely forgotten. But actually, let me just delete one of those. Let's delete this one. Delete the row. But anyway, you can see now that the RLI consulting data is within that. And actually, what is useful as well about this sheet is that it automatically alphabetizes. Is that the word? Alphabetizes the data in column A. And you can see all of the different data on RLI Consulting, my website, my email address, the fact it's United Kingdom, and that I've written this as a test in the notes. So that's there, so that's good. But obviously I might have already had that data in there, so let me prove that actually this form is actually updating the data on the organization sheet. So what this top cell does is lists all the organizations that you've inputted in. So let's do RLI Consulting, let's search for the data that we've got. And you can see all the various data that we've got. But I want to change the name now to RLI Consulting 2. So I've done that. Let's click modify. Data updated. Let's see if the data is updated. And there it is there, RLI Consulting 2. So that's what the user form allows you to do. We can also delete the data. So let's delete that. Oh, no, hold on. I've got to search for it, sorry. RLI. There we go. Right, yeah. Let's search for that. There we go. Let's delete the data. Do I want to delete this data? Yes, I do. It's deleted it there. And you can see it's gone. It's gone from here. And like I say, the useful thing is that this also just sorts it into alphabetical order. So as you're looking through this tab, you can see all of the different organizations in alphabetical order. But you can also use the filters on the top to search. So if I'm looking for Mohawk Industries, then click that, and then obviously that brings up all the data I've got on this organization. So let's select all again, and then we can see all the data again. So yeah, the user form is really useful in that respect. You can delete data, you can add in data. If we click clear form, it will clear the form and you can start again. We can modify existing data, and like I say, it makes for quite a handy environment. I'm now on the events tab. Like I say, this organization wanted a way to track their invitations that they sent to different organizations and see who RSVP'd. So like I say, this is dummy data, but I want to add in a new invitation. So I can click here on the column that says event, and there are drop downs with the list of events that you might have in your calendar. So I want to invite this organization to the fundraising dinner 2023, and I've just added in RLI Consulting, so let's see if they're there. There they are. So I'm in the organizations column here, and that will automatically update every time you add a new organization in. And if I go to the next column called records link, you'll see a link is formed. And what this link does is take you to all of the data available on that organization. So here I've got RLI Consulting, and I want to see all of the information that I've got on RLI Consulting. So I hover over that, I see the link there, and it takes me directly to RLI Consulting, and I can see all of the data available. Just to prove it works, let's do it for another one. Waste Management is the name of the organization. So I'll click there, and it takes me to Waste Management, and I can see all the data that I've got available for that organization. So that's that. What this also does is give you useful information that you might want for this organization in this sheet. So like I say, you don't want to be pulling all of the data you've got for this organization into all of these other sheets, but you might want to pull some data. So here for events, it's useful to know the name of the person associated with the organization. So whenever I add in, say I change this to Alphabet, then I've got a name. It's dummy data, it's been duplicated, so don't worry about that. But essentially it pulls in the named contact that I've got for that organization. Let's change it back to RLI Consulting. And here I've got my name as being the named contact, and that will automatically pull the data in from the organization sheet. And the way that the columns are color coded mean that the green columns are where you need to input data, and the blue columns are ones where they're auto-populated according to the formulas that are within them. So these ones automatically create the link, and this should automatically create the named contact, and the other ones are where you need to input data. So I'm going to list myself as a consultancy. There we go. And then I can say, did I RSVP to this event? Yes or no? And there we go. So that's that. So essentially all of the other sheets work in a similar fashion. You add in organization data. It pulls the record again. So there you go. You can see that. And then you add in data as you need it according to the particular sheet. So it's fairly self-explanatory from there on in. I don't think there's anything to see that is particularly different on some of the other sheets. They all work in a very similar way. They just contain information specific to the kind of data that you're seeking to collect. Like I mentioned, there is a tab here called drop downs. So the client has the option to add in additional options for their drop downs as and when they're needed. So let's show that. So let's add in test event here, and this is in the column that says events. So if I go back to events, then I should see test event, and there it is. So you'll always have the option to update and modify your drop downs as and when needed. The other thing that I also thought about for this client is how they could see the information available on an organization after they've already come into the CRM. So the first thing you do with the organization data is you input it into the user form, and that tells you their name, their focus, who the person is, the website, their email. But what it doesn't tell you is then, as the months and the years gone by, what kinds of interactions have you had with that organization? Have they been invited to events? how many times have you communicated with them. So I thought, okay, I'm going to need to create a form that allows the client to be able to see the interactions that they've had with that organization as time has gone by. So I've created a tab here called interactions. So if I click on that, and the way this works is it's pretty self-explanatory. You've got a list of the organizations here. So let's pick, what shall I pick? Hartford Financial Services. And once I've clicked that, this table here will populate with various information on how I've interacted or this client has interacted with them as time has gone by. So I know they've been invited to 2 events: fundraising dinner 2023, award ceremony 2022, that they were a nominating partner in 2023 and miraculously in 2024, despite that being in the future. Like I say, this is just test data. They've interacted with the Asia Pacific and Eurasia networks. They are a capacity building partner. So this is just a simple yes or no, whether they're a training partner or a capacity building partner, as it's written here. And I've interacted with them on 4 different occasions, and these are the dates. Now, obviously, on this form, I'm not going to be able to see all of the data in terms of how I've interacted with them, but it's a quick snapshot on how I've worked with them. And if I wanted to see the content of the communications, then I could obviously go to the communications tab. I've forgotten the name of it. It was financial something. Yeah, financial. There we go. So if I click them, if I do that properly, we go Hartford Financial Services, then I can see that there were 4 interactions like the other form shown. I haven't actually put any notes in here just because it's dummy data, but obviously I could see some of the notes on those contacts that I had with them in that time. So like I say, the interactions tab isn't going to give you all of the data available on them, but it is a useful snapshot on the interactions that you've had with all the different organizations. So if I do Mohawk Industries, you can see they've been invited to 1 event. I've had 2 communications with them, and all the various other information that I've got on them. And obviously to reset, similar to the other one, the other form that I showed you before, you click on clear form, clears the form. Do I want to clear it? Yes, I do. And then you can start from scratch. So this is the CRM, and obviously CRMs tend to also have a option to visualize the data, and there was an initial option to think about how I do this within Google Sheets, and you can do that. You can create an additional tab down here that says dashboard, and you could maybe make some graphs, you could make some tables, you could add in various formulas that mean that they update automatically. But I decided actually we needed something a bit more powerful, and I decided to use Google's BI platform. And essentially, it's just a platform where it allows you to visualize data in interesting ways in various different charts and formats. There are other BI platforms available. Power BI is the one that people know a lot, but I decided to obviously think about the client again and keeping things within the Google environment. And Google have got their own BI called Data Studio. They, a few years ago, bought a company called Looker. So the Google Data Studio is also known as the Looker Data Studio, but it's exactly the same thing, and it's within the Google environment. So I went about seeing how I might create a dashboard for this client that visualizes some of the data contained in the CRM. So that's in a different place, and you can get to it by hovering over the go to dashboard cell here, clicking on the link, that'll redirect you to this report. So like I say, it's a really powerful platform, Google Data Studio, and it allows you to organize various information in lots of different ways. And here I've decided to do a few things. So there is a little tracker here which tells you how many organizations have been added to the CRM. You can then visualize that over time. And if you hover over the graph, it'll tell you that by 1st December 2022, we'd added 11 organizations rather to the CRM. And obviously that increases over time. You can see the locations of where organizations have been added from, or the locations of the organizations. Obviously, that's quite a small map. So again, because this is Google, it uses their Google Maps technology, which is really powerful. And you can just click full screen there. You can zoom in. So then you get a sense that, okay, so that is Cote d'Ivoire, that is Gabon. So you have that option to be able to see all of that in full screen. We can come out of that. Obviously now it's zoomed in there. If I want to reset that view, I just click a little button there and it resets that view. You also can do things like, if I only wanted to see the organizations that had environment as a theme, I'd click the drop down there. It would then update the dashboard. Now I know there are 11 organizations with environment as a theme. This graph has changed and this map has changed as well to only reflect the organizations where environment was listed as a theme. So it's really dynamic in that sense. The other thing that I've tried to do as well is also visualize some of the data from the events tab. So here there's a chart here which tells you the different events, and according to the size of the box and the intensity of the green is how many organizations have been invited to them. And you can hover over this chart. So I'm hovering over Roundtable 2022 and I can see 3 organizations were invited to Roundtable 2022. So that's a useful way to visualize that data. And if I wanted to reset the filter, so I've still got the environment filter here, I can just click the reset filters button here, and that has now gone back to 22 organizations, and it's also reset this events tab, so I can see actually out of the 22 organizations, 6 were invited to the round table, and I know also 3 of them focus on environment because that's obviously the filter that I had before. There is a pivot table here as well, which lists the different events according to the different types of organization invited. And actually, again, you can also use this as a filter. So if I click on donor, so I can see, you can see that this chart is updated, and out of the organizations that were donors, they were invited to 2 events, the round table and the award ceremony. 3 were invited to the round table and 1 was invited to the award ceremony. And again, we just click this button there that says reset, and now you can see the data on all of the organizations. You also, if you want to include your dashboard in a report, you can click download. There's various different options. You could password protect the report, etc., but I'm just going to download it. That should start working and give me a jazzy report. Yes, there we go. So it'll take a few seconds, and I'll just open that, and there we go, and that's downloaded it as a PDF. So this is the PDF viewer, and obviously you can now include that in various different reports. So hopefully you've got a flavour of how this CRM functions. like I say, all of it is adaptable. You might want to think about having a go yourself, but obviously, this is now something that I've done for this client. And you might want to reach out to me on naveed@rliconsulting.co.uk to think about how I might go about creating a CRM in Google Workspace for you.